This is Naruto.
Believe it!
A character who helped change anime forever. A character who was given 700 chapters of manga, 720 episodes of anime, and way more video games than people probably realize. Stretching all the way from the Game Boy Advance to what we have today in the PlayStation 5. And I'm about to play every single one of them. So let's just see how much the Naruto games have changed over the last 2 decades. This list starts off in 2003 with Naruto Konoha Ninpocho. This is on a system that probably none of you have heard of, called the Wonder Swan Color. And it is a Japanese exclusive, which is going to be the only Japanese exclusive I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to be covering this one because it is the first Naruto game ever made, so there's just no way I could skip it. And honestly, this thing is about as early 2000s anime as it gets. You've got tiny little pixel versions of Naruto running around, barely any story. Animations are incredibly simple, and half the time I wasn't sure what attack I was even using. But that's kind of what makes it charming. I mean, you have to remember, Naruto had literally just started becoming popular. This game feels less like let's make the best Naruto game we can to like, hey, people like this kid running around hitting things, so let's do something. Combat is extremely basic, but for being the very first Naruto game, I mean, I can't be too hard on it. Naruto definitely started off very, very simple, but now we move on to the first game that most people outside of Japan actually recognize, and that's Naruto Clash of Ninja for the GameCube. And this was the first Naruto game released in North America. I mean, right away, this is exactly what you'd expect from an early Naruto fighting game. You pick a character, you enter an arena, and immediately start throwing kunai and spamming substitution jutsu like your life depends on it. The roster, extremely small. You basically get the main characters from the beginning of Naruto, and that's about it. The important characters are here. You have Naruto, you have Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Rock Lee, and a couple others. The combat is simple, but it feels good. You attack, you sidestep, you throw some projectiles, and you use special moves to recreate attacks from the anime. The characters look pretty solid for a GameCube game. The biggest problem is that there just isn't much here. You go through the story mode, unlock a few characters, fight your friends, and then you basically have seen everything. But I remember coming home from school with my friends and just booting up the game, throwing hands. It was actually kind of awesome. Next, we have to talk about Naruto Ninja Council for the Game Boy Advance. This also came out in 2006, and instead of being a traditional fighting game, this is a side-scrolling action game where you run through levels as Naruto and Sasuke. It's a little odd, but I mean, you fight random ninja, you jump across platforms, you collect some items, and you use different jutsu to clear the screen. I'm gonna be honest, it barely feels like a Naruto game. Most of the game is just running from left to right, beating up the same 3 enemies while like different items are trying to kill you on the screen. But for a Game Boy Advance game, it's pretty good looking. It has its charms. The problem is that the controls do feel stiff and the levels just start to blend together. Like half the battle is fighting the enemies and the other half is trying to land on a platform without Naruto sliding off of it. It's definitely basic, but for a handheld Naruto game in 2006, I understand what they were trying to do. But now we're moving up a whole generation. We're going to Naruto Ultimate Ninja. This is for the PlayStation 2. This is when Naruto games started to feel a lot more official. The characters take a huge leap in design. The arenas are pulled directly from the anime, and the ultimate attacks are presented through these massive cinematic cutscenes. You're not just hitting somebody with a Rasengan, you are hitting them with a Rasengan. The actual combat takes place on a 2D plane, but you can jump between the foreground and the background, run up walls, throw items, and use a substitution jutsu, which is a staple. There are also flying objects everywhere. Somebody throws a kunai, a box falls from the sky, and Naruto turns into a log, and suddenly you just don't know what's going on. But the chaos of this game is what gave it personality. The story mode follows Naruto's early arcs, although it mostly feels like a collection of battles and minigames rather than like a connected story. Still, this game was a huge step forward. The ultimate jutsu looks amazing, the characters felt different from one another, and it actually captured and exaggerated the style of the anime. Then we move on to Naruto Clash of Ninja 2 for the GameCube. This basically takes the first Clash of Ninja and says, okay, let's actually finish the game. The roster is much bigger, there's a lot more stages, and the combat feels smoother, and most importantly, the game adds 4-player battles. And 4-player battles in Clash of Ninja, for those of you who don't remember, was complete chaos. You have Naruto launching shadow clones, Gaara throwing sand across the screen, somebody charging an ultimate attack in the corner, one player who has no idea what they're doing, they're just pressing buttons. This is the type of game that probably ended friendships back in the day. The fighting is still relatively simple, but having more characters makes a massive difference. The first game felt like a demo, while the second kind of feels like the full version they were envisioning. This game doesn't have the depth of the later Naruto fighters, but as a local multiplayer game, it holds up surprisingly well. Then we have Naruto Ninja Council 2. This is just another side-scrolling action Naruto game, but now you can switch between Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura while moving through the levels. It immediately makes the game more interesting, but I wouldn't say it makes it that much better. Naruto's the balanced character, Sasuke has his fire style attacks, and Sakura can punch things really hard, which is just basically her entire job. But it still has the same problems as the first game. It's just not that good. The enemies are repeating, the platforms can be awkward. You're just standing there punching the same 5 ninjas wondering how they have so much health. It's an improvement over the first game, but still feels like a small handheld side project compared to the Ultimate Ninja and Clash of Ninja series. But now we jump to 2007. This is when they dropped Naruto Ninja Council 3 for the Nintendo DS. It continues the same formula as the previous two, but now you have a DS touchscreen for the special attacks, which is interesting. That does mean you have to stop playing the game so you can draw symbols on the bottom screen, which only sometimes work. Sometimes you draw what looks like the correct shape, and then the game basically tells you that you're just not good enough at drawing and you don't get to do anything. The roster is much larger than previous games, and you select different characters for different missions, which gives the game more variety over the Game Boy Advance versions, but the basic gameplay is still repetitive. It's not terrible, but by the third Ninja Council game, it's definitely starting to show its age and get old. Next, you have Naruto Ultimate Ninja 2 for the PlayStation 2. This game improves almost everything from the first one. The roster's bigger, the fighting feels better, the story mode now allows you to move around the Hidden Leaf Village between missions. You can talk to characters, you can do side quests, you can collect items, participate in random minigames, and some of these minigames are extremely Naruto. The combat still has that chaotic Ultimate Ninja style element where like everything's flying everywhere and substitutions happen every 2 seconds, but it's a lot smoother than it was before. The ultimate jutsu are still the highlight, very dramatic, completely over the top, and sometimes take so long that you could probably make a sandwich in between the animations. Ultimate Ninja 2 feels like the first game with more of everything. It's not perfect, but it's a strong sequel and a clear improvement. Now we have Naruto Ultimate Ninja Heroes for the PSP. I don't know how many of you guys played the PSP games. I used to love the PSP games, it was my favorite. This is basically the Ultimate Ninja experience squeezed into a handheld. The combat looks and feels similar to the PlayStation 2 games, but the structure focuses more heavily on building 3 character teams, which is a feature that I personally like a lot. Different team combinations will give you different bonuses, so putting certain characters together can increase your attacks, defense, or chakra. It's a cool idea, and it encourages you to experiment instead of using Naruto for every single fight, although let's be honest, people are still just picking Naruto, Sasuke, or Kakashi. And having this style of Naruto fighter on a portable console was like awesome at the time. The downside is it feels smaller than the PS2 games. The story content is super limited. After a while, it becomes long series of fights without anything connecting them. We're gonna move on to Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles for the PlayStation 2. This game is completely different from Ultimate Ninja. Instead of fighting one opponent in arena, this is like a 3D action-adventure game where Naruto runs around completing missions for the Hidden Leaf Village. You fight groups of enemies, protect characters, collect items, upgrade Naruto using a skill tree system, skill plate system, I don't know how you describe it. And on paper, it sounds really cool actually. An action-adventure Naruto game where you can like go on actual ninja missions, but the execution was weird. Like the environments are empty, the enemies repeat constantly, and a lot of the missions feel like Naruto running through the same forest while fighting the same generic ninja. The combat's not horrible, but it doesn't have the impact of Ultimate Ninja. You hit enemies, they barely react, and then 5 more appear from behind a tree. The skill upgrade system is interesting because you can arrange different abilities on a grid to improve Naruto's stats, but the game surrounding that system just feels repetitive and it's not that fun. There are good ideas, they just feel trapped inside a game that needs more time and variety to develop. Next, we move on to Naruto Path of Ninja for the Nintendo DS. This is the first game on this list that plays like a traditional RPG. You explore areas, you build a team, encounter random enemies. You select attacks from a menu much like Pokemon. It's like Naruto mixed with Pokemon mixed with Final Fantasy. I'm a big fan of the old Pokemon games, so I actually kind of enjoyed this. It's slower than all the other Naruto fighting games, but being able to create a squad and use different combinations of jutsu, it just gives the game a lot more strategy and depth, honestly. Character placement matters, chakra management matters, certain attacks hit different sections of the battlefield. The biggest issue is just random encounters. You take 4 steps, a ninja appears. It's super annoying. You take another 4 steps, the same thing happens again. This game is definitely the most unique on the list and definitely isn't made for someone who likes the fast Naruto battles, but it's definitely a good game. And now we move on to the first game on the Xbox 360, Naruto Rise of Ninja. This game was a huge deal for the time. It was the first time we had a Naruto game with a fully explorable version of the Hidden Leaf Village, and going back to this game, the village is still the best part by far. You start with people basically hating Naruto, and as you complete missions and help them, their opinions slowly change of you. It combines open world exploration, platforming, one-on-one fighting, and yes, the combat isn't as deep as other games like Ultimate Ninja, but it's good enough for everything else they've done. You can also perform jutsu by moving the analog sticks in different hand sign patterns, which is like a crazy feature for back then. Like, I'm sure there were some people who were absolutely cracked at it, but for someone who's not insanely gifted at something like that, like just, you know, you're fighting somebody and you just have to stop and just, you know, it's just really awkward moving your joysticks standing still in the middle of a fight. The game uses actual clips from the anime to tell the story, which is like a little strange next to the in-game graphics, but like it gives you a really cool, authentic experience. It's really hard to explain. It's definitely rough in some areas, but this was one of the first games that made me feel like I was living in a Naruto's world instead of just replaying battles over and over again. Then we have Naruto Clash of Ninja Revolution, which was for the Wii. And as you'd expect for a Wii game, some insane person decided we need motion controls, which is hilarious. I never actually played this game when it came out, but like, you use the Wii remote to perform certain attacks and jutsu, which sounds immersive until like you realize you're sitting in your room violently shaking a controller to make Naruto punch somebody.
And when
Thankfully now you can use more traditional controls. The gameplay builds on the Clash of Ninja series with like 4-player battles, really cool characters, and really nice arena combat. The roster's decent and the fighting isn't that technical where like almost anybody can pick it up. It doesn't feel like a massive evolution, but it brought Clash of Ninja to a new console and without ruining what made the game fun. So I guess that's a win. And for like a Wii fighting game, that's already an accomplishment. Now for the final game of the year 2007, we have Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2. And I mean, this improved on the original game in literally every single way. The combat feels smoother, you can use more characters, the environments have more variety. The story involves an army of puppet-like enemies, giving the game an original plot instead of directly repeating the anime. You can also bring in partners into the missions and switch between characters, which helps break up the repetition. But make no mistake, there's still a lot of repetition. You will fight the same groups of enemies, complete similar objectives, and travel through areas that feel longer than they need to be. It's better than the first game, but it still feels like a series trying to figure out how to turn Naruto into like a proper 3D action game. Now we move to 2008, with the first game being Naruto Ultimate Ninja 3. This is where the original Ultimate Ninja formula like really came together. The roster's absolutely massive compared to earlier games, the combat way faster, the ultimate attacks even more insane looking. The game also gives you a larger version of the Hidden Leaf Village to explore. It's not exactly an open world, but it gives you more variety and personality than simply moving between menus. The story covers a large portion of Part 1 Naruto, and the game's packed with content. It is what makes Ultimate Ninja fun, and this is definitely the best game out of the trilogy. Next, we have Naruto Ninja Destiny for the Nintendo DS, and this is a fully 3D Naruto fighting game on the Nintendo DS. The characters are like little tiny action figures fighting inside of a shoebox, but like it's still a real 3D fighting game on a handheld, which for the time was insane. The touchscreen is mainly used for items and power-ups. You can restore health, increase your attack, activate other bonuses in the middle of a fight, which sounds super helpful, but it also means looking away from the fight while the CPU is trying to like destroy you. The game's fast, but like very simple. You can mash through most battles without learning any special combo. It's not one of the deepest Naruto games, but as a portable like 3D fighter, it's way more impressive than what I remembered. Moving on to the next Naruto game, being Naruto Ultimate Ninja Heroes 2, The Phantom Fortress, which I have like such vivid memories about playing back in middle school. This game brings us back to like the portable Ultimate Ninja combat, and the story adds like this mysterious flying fortress that you move floor to floor on, completing challenges and fighting different characters. There's like a ton of floors. I did not finish this game. The combat remains fun, and there's like mini games you can do and different objectives to add variety, but the structure becomes super repetitive because like it's just once you finish a floor, you go to another floor and you do the same thing. It's a good portable fighter, but you know, you could have like shaved off 50 floors off of this game. Next, we have Naruto Clash of Ninja Revolution 2 for the Wii. This sequel is just a larger roster, some new mechanics, more stages, add an original story created specifically for the Western release. The fighting feels faster, and the 4-player battles are still the highlight. There are also like more control options, meaning you don't have to swing the Wii remote. The original story is not going to replace the anime, but it gives you an excuse to fight a wide range of characters. Overall, as a sequel, like it didn't do too much more. It's kind of just like a new 2K game. But now we're moving on to Naruto The Broken Bond, which came on the Xbox 360. This game takes everything that was good about Rise of a Ninja and just expands on it. The Hidden Leaf Village, even larger. The platforming feels better. You can create teams with different characters. Each character has unique abilities that help you move through the world. The story covers a search for Tsunade arc through Sasuke leaving the village, and because of that, the game has like way more of an emotional storyline than Rise of a Ninja. You get that fight on the hospital roof, the Sound 4 battles, and eventually Naruto versus Sasuke at the final valley. But don't get me wrong, the fighting mechanics still like aren't nearly as polished as they could have been or should have been compared to other arena fighters at the time, but the overall experience was better. This game might be one of the best Naruto games for actually experiencing part 1 story, and it's somehow just trapped on the Xbox 360, which is hilarious. This next game is the game that changed the entire Naruto franchise forever, and that game is Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. This was a PS3 exclusive at the time, which is insane to me, but like I said, this game changed Naruto forever. The jump in visuals was insane. The characters looked like they were pulled like from the anime. The animations are so smooth. The special attacks are just on a completely different level than anything before. And instead of fighting on a 2D plane, you're now moving freely through like a large 3D arena. You can dash toward your opponent, call support characters. The Hidden Leaf Village is also fully explorable. You run across rooftops, you collect items, complete missions, relive the major moments of Part 1 Naruto. Actual story presentation is a little strange because some important events are skipped or reduced to text, but the boss battles and visuals make up for a lot of it. Ultimate Ninja Storm feels like the moment Naruto games entered the modern era. The previous games looked like adaptations of Naruto, and this looked like an anime that became playable, if that makes sense. This game was peak. And now we're in 2009. We have Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja 4. This was the first Ultimate Ninja game in North America to enter the Shippuden era. You get older Naruto, Sakura, Kakashi, Gaara, and several Akatsuki members. This game also includes a mode that recaps major events from Part 1, which helps connect the original series to Shippuden. Master Mode combines exploration, battles, and RPG elements as Naruto travels through these different areas. But because the game only covers the beginning of Shippuden, the roster feels kind of like caught in this weird awkward spot between two eras. Combat's still great. Ultimate Jutsu remained completely over the top, insane animations, but it feels more like the beginning of Shippuden than like the complete package. We're taking it back to the PSP, guys. We have Naruto Shippuden Legends Akatsuki Rising. I've never played this game before. I didn't even know this game existed until I started this video. This is a 3D action game based around the Kazekage rescue arc. You create teams like other games, you complete missions, you fight groups of enemies while moving through larger environments, which sounds, again, like an awesome idea, but it gets so repetitive so quickly. Combat, nothing to write home about. It's functional, but the enemies still don't react in any satisfying way. It has some cool character progression and team mechanics, but just it never captures like what the Storm games brought. Next, for the Nintendo DS, we have Naruto Shippuden Ninja Destiny 2. This is another portable 3D fighter with like a much larger Shippuden roster, which is awesome. The game has a more developed story mode, but it's like not extremely deep. And for a DS game, the animations are solid, and having, you know, almost all the Shippuden characters available on a handheld was probably a big deal back then. It's a decent sequel, but it still feels like a smaller version of the console fighters that we know. And for the final game in 2009, we have Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 for the Nintendo Wii. And this might be the best Clash of Ninja game that released in North America. The roster is much deeper, the combat's faster, and the game finally moves fully into Shippuden. You have transformations, tag mechanics, and I think this is the first game with online multiplayer. The online connection back then was definitely like not awesome, but I mean, fighting online as Naruto is pretty sick. The fighting was more in depth than what I remembered when I played it back in the day. Characters have unique combos, they have defense mechanics and different ways to use chakra. If this series had continued and received more modern sequels, I think Clash of Ninja could have remained a legitimate competitor to Storm, but I mean, like, I'm not complaining with how Storm turned out, so. And now, starting off in 2010, we have another game for the PlayStation Portable, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Heroes 3, which this game just brings Shippuden to the portable Ultimate Ninja series and adds like a ton of content. The roster's larger, story goes deeper, and battles can include multiple characters at once. You can also play with other people through local wireless multiplayer. The combat was fast and chaotic, but putting several ninja on a screen at the same time would make everything like even crazier. The story mode, super lengthy, which, you know, is good and bad. Still, this is like definitely the most complete PlayStation portable game that they have. Now, in my opinion, this is definitely the weirdest Naruto Shippuden game. We have Naruto Shippuden Dragon Blade Chronicles for the Wii. I mean, this is just insane. Instead of adapting like a normal anime arc, Naruto and Sasuke are given these magic dragon blades and are sent on like an original adventure involving elemental dragons. It feels like somebody combined Naruto with a completely unrelated weird fantasy game and just hope nobody would notice. The concept, it's interesting. You explore environments, you fight monsters, you upgrade the dragon blades, and you play separate sections as Naruto and Sasuke. But oh my god, I'm telling you, the combat, extremely repetitive. You gotta swing a Wii remote. Are you kidding me? You attack the same enemies, you slowly move through the levels, which feel much longer than they need to be. The camera also has its moments where it feels like it's just actively working against you. And don't get me wrong, like some of the boss designs are pretty cool, and I do like that they tried to do something new and completely different and original, but it feels like a Naruto filler game, which, I mean, the show already had so much filler. I can't believe they made a Naruto filler game. And next on the list, we have probably the most legendary Naruto game to have ever been released, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2. This is the first game that had actually awesome visuals. The first Storm game was an insane leap in just how the game looked and felt, but Storm 2 gives those visuals a much stronger story mode. It covers Shippuden from Naruto returning to the village to the battle against Pain. That is a lot of content. The boss fights, awesome. You combine those with the quick time events, the cinematic attacks, and just regular combat in the way that makes the game feel like you're living in the anime. In the biggest moments, the Naruto versus Pain battle is still one of the best fights in any Naruto game, let alone the show. The combat's been improved, online multiplayer was finally added, and now you can spam substitutions and support characters against strangers from around the world, which is hilarious. Exploration is more limited than the open village from Storm 1, but the story presentation is much better, and it finally feels like they know what they need to do with the game. And now, we're moving on to Naruto Shippuden 3D, the new era, which came out for the Nintendo 3DS in 2011. This was one of those early Naruto games that came out on the 3DS. Like, it's a side-scrolling action game with platforming, combat, and an original storyline. And yes, the game is technically 3D, but I mean, not really. Naruto can now run toward the right side of the screen with like slightly more depth, which is cool, I guess. The visuals are decent for an early 3DS game, and the game makes us use both Naruto and Sasuke, but the combat super basic and the level designs are just repetitive. You fight groups of enemies, you jump between platforms, and occasionally face a larger boss. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Next, we have Naruto Shippuden Kizuna Drive for the PlayStation Portable. I think this is the last game ever made for the PSP. This game focuses on 4-person battles specifically. You enter missions with the team, fight groups of enemies, and you combine your abilities to defeat a larger boss. Cooperative Naruto game where each player takes a different role sounds pretty cool, but the problem is that unless you're playing with actual people, you're relying on your AI teammates, and your AI teammates occasionally, they get stuck, they take unnecessary damage, and sometimes they're just completely unaware that there's a battle happening. And the combat, again, a lot of these games have the same problem, but it just feels repetitive. Like, a lot of the missions involve fighting waves of enemies before reaching a boss. There's some good ideas in this game, but like, the game is just much better when you're like playing with actual people. And next up, we have Naruto Shippuden Shinobi Rumble for the Nintendo DS. This is basically Naruto's attempt at a small platform fighter. The characters are presented as 2D, and up to 4 ninja can fight on stages filled with platforms and hazards. It's fast, chaotic, and clearly inspired by a super popular game called Super Smash Bros. You can jump around, use special attacks, collect items, and launch opponents across the stage. The roster, though, super small. The animations have a lot of personality and works well as like a fun party game with your friends. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing like this concept return as like a massive modern Naruto game. And for the final game of the year 2011, we have Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Impact for the PSP. This game is just like Naruto mixed with Dynasty Warriors. Instead of fighting one opponent, you run into like one giant battlefield and you fight hundreds of enemies, and Naruto will throw like a Rasengan and 30 people will disappear. The large scale battles make the characters feel more powerful in a way that like handheld games never achieve, but I mean, it's still kind of tacky, I guess. Moving into 2012, we have Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations, which came out on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. This game brings the younger and older characters of Naruto together in like this massive giant roster. You can have young Naruto fight Sage Mode Naruto, or young Sasuke fight Akatsuki Sasuke, or create basically any Part 1 versus Shippuden matchup you want. The combat's much faster than Storm 2, and new substitution meter like completely changes how the defense works. You can no longer substitute after every attack indefinitely, but once the meter is gone, you're gonna experience a very, very long combo. The story is presented through individual character stories using animated scenes created specifically for the game. And these scenes are cool, especially when you're exploring characters like Minato, Itachi, or Zabuza. But the story mode does lack the exploration and the massive boss fights that you get from Storm 2. Generations is definitely more focused on fighting and expanding the roster. And as a multiplayer Naruto game, it's pretty awesome. But as a cinematic story experience, it just feels like a smaller side project for them. And now we move on to 2013 with Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. This game was massive. It covers the 5 Kage Summit, moves deep into the 4th Great Ninja War. The opening attack on the Hidden Leaf Village is one of the craziest beginnings of any Naruto game, and that is basically the game telling you immediately that the boss battles are back. The story mode is super cinematic, emotional, and it's filled with huge set pieces. Naruto fights the Nine Tails, the allied shinobi forces fight massive armies. The game recreates some of the anime's biggest moments. The combat builds on Generations, adding new mechanics and an enormous roster. The biggest problem is the ending. Because the manga wasn't finished yet, the game created its own conclusion to the war section. It's not terrible, but it definitely feels like the game suddenly took a detour into filler territory. As an overall package, Storm 3 is definitely one of the best in the series. Moving on to Naruto Powerful Shippuden for the 3DS, which is probably the funniest name in all of them. This game is just completely different from everything else. Every character was turned into like this tiny chibi version of themselves with enormous heads. The style is based off the Rock Lee spin-off show, so like the entire game is much more comedic, and you play through side-scrolling levels as Naruto or Rock Lee, completing missions and fighting exaggerated versions of familiar enemies. The combat, super simple, but the animations are hilarious. It is definitely not the deepest game, but it's doing exactly what it wants to be. Jumping to 2014, we have Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution. This game focuses heavily on expanding the roster and experimenting with combat. It introduces some new mechanics like counters and guard breaks, and separates characters into different combat types. And depending on the type you choose, you gain access to ultimate jutsu, awakenings, or even stronger support abilities. I don't know if anybody asked for that. I mean, Storm already had a working formula, so like separating these abilities sometimes makes characters feel more limited. And the main single player mode is just the Ninja World Tournament, where like 4 characters fight at the same time to collect battle orbs. Really can be super frustrating because like you just get hit off screen and you lose half your points. And the game also includes Mecha Naruto. And yes, somebody built a robot Naruto. But overall, it just feels like some experimental game released between Storm 3 and 4. We're going to jump to 2016 with Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. This is the conclusion of the main storyline. And I mean, I'm telling you, they put basically everything into this game. The visuals are incredible, the combat super fast, and the story covers all the way to the final battles of the 4th Great Ninja War. You get Naruto and Sasuke fighting Madara, Guy opening the 8 gates, Team 7 battling Kaguya, and the final Naruto versus Sasuke fight. The scale of the boss battles is absolutely ridiculous, in launching attacks that probably cost more to animate than some of the other Naruto games we covered. The combat also introduces the ability to switch between team members during combat, which makes the game feel like way more dynamic because you're no longer only calling characters in for one support attack. The roster absolutely enormous, with almost every version of every character in this game. This is one of the best looking anime games that have ever been made, and it's absolutely peak for the Storm series for 90% of people, I'd say. Shortly after the Storm series, we get Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker, which takes the franchise in a completely different direction than the other games. Instead of controlling the main characters through a cinematic story, you create your own ninja, which is cool, and you participate in 4 versus 4 online battles. You choose between attack, range, defense, and healing classes. Each class has different weapons, abilities, and just responsibilities, so your teamwork actually matters. You cannot have 4 tag characters run directly into the enemy team and expect everything to work, although that obviously doesn't stop people from doing it every single game. The movement in this game is definitely the best part. You can run across walls, you can throw wire kunai, you can jump between buildings, and you can run through vertical arenas. When everything's working, the battle feels fast and different from Storm, but I remember specifically this game was so buggy when it first launched. Content, super limited, matchmaking has issues, fighting coordinated teams is just a miserable experience online. But it's definitely not for everyone, and it's something different. It's cool that they attempted it, but I'm going to stick to Storm. And finally, we have the magnum opus of the Storm series, with Naruto x Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections. This game is a celebration release for the Storm series and the Naruto history. The roster, biggest it's ever been. Over 130 characters from Naruto to Boruto. You have young characters, adult characters, alternate transformations, different versions of Naruto and Sasuke, and just enough variations to start an argument about who should count as a separate character. Obviously, the combat is based off of Storm 4, but it introduces some changes designed to make the game just a little more simple. The simplified controls just kind of automatically do combos and jutsu, which is useful for new players, but experienced players also feel the game is occasionally just playing itself. Connections includes a history mode that retells major events from Naruto and Sasuke's story. The problem is that a lot of it feels condensed. I mean, major events are quickly explained through narration and reused footage. There's also a new special story involving Boruto, Naruto, and Sasuke, and an original character named Nanashi, which honestly, the new story has its interesting moments, but after Storm 4 ended with the Great Fourth Ninja War and Naruto vs Sasuke, it was going to be difficult to match that scale. So I'm gonna say the biggest strength of this game is definitely the roster, but as a completely new Storm game, Connections feels familiar. A lot of the animations, stages, mechanics, story content come from the same games. It feels less like a Storm 5 and more like a massive Storm Anniversary collection with some characters added. Combat's still fun, visuals are still strong, Ultimate Jutsu are some of the best looking attacks in any game. But I mean, after waiting years, and I mean years, this is a lot less than what people expected. After playing through all these games, it's honestly insane to see how far the Naruto games have come. Some games tried to recreate the anime, some games created completely original stories, and some games gave Naruto a magic sword. And you know, I don't understand why. Naruto games have definitely had their rough moments, but watching it from evolve from this to this in less than 2 decades, it's pretty incredible. And if you somehow made it through this entire video, seriously, thank you for watching. Like, let me know what Naruto game was your favorite and which series you think deserves to come back. And that being said, that's been me playing every Naruto game ever.